Good. Hello, my name is María Barrick. I'm waiting for Adriana.
I forgot my audio, sorry.
Okay.
Would you like to
So
start already, Maria?
I said my name is María Barrick,
My name is Adriana Perez.
and we have been working together here close to 10 years, over 10 years, in CLE for South Texas College. And we're going to present this session today that is called Tutoring Scenarios and Discussions.
Yes. Let me start with some information about South Texas College, or STC. STC is composed of 7 campuses, including online classes, plus 2 educational centers. Most of the campuses are located in Hidalgo County and 1 in Starr County. Last year enrollment was 26,021 students last fall semester. This consists of traditional students, which about 40% are first generation. They also consist of dual enrollments. These are students that while taking their high school classes, they're also taking college courses.
What we do in we call it CLE for short, but it's Center for Learning Excellence in South Texas. And what we do is we do tutorings, and the tutorings can be in person or online, especially when we do humanities. These papers can be asynchronous, and it takes about 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours to get your paper back. We also do, you want
We
to
also
talk
have
about
embedded tutoring. Embedded tutoring are tutors that help in class. They're integrated in the class.
Then we have supplemental instruction. This is a free academic support that provides out-of-class peer facilitated review sessions to help students in challenging courses. Academic coaching is another thing we provide. Is academic support one-to-one. It can be on person or online, and it helps you with time management, test preparations, note taking, and much more than that. And then we also do workshops. The workshops we offer is in TSI preparations, as well as the following, like learning strategies, stress management, and exam preparations.
So the purpose of this presentation is as follows. Our strategy is going to be tutoring scenarios. So you're going to be given a scenario, and you're going to also be given an opportunity to share your response, or if you have a similar story, you could share the story if you like to. Practicing and sharing knowledge with colleagues enhances individual skills and fosters supported community. Continuous learning, reflective practices, adaptability are essential to rising to the excellence and even a lasting impact on students' life.
The objective is to exchange experiences, okay? So the experiences can be exchanged among us, the tutors are working here. So you can select what scenario you can do. We can develop that scenario if you want to. We can also discuss about the scenario. And of course, with all this together, we can mitigate the issues that we have in tutoring. Okay, with that, we're going to start explaining how we're going to do. This is the scenario that we're going to show all the time. And you can see we have 12 different scenarios. So all of you will have a chance to pick one. And when we open it, we will point out what the problem was or is and what we can do about it. And of course, everybody is, welcome to participate on it. Anybody wants to participate? We'll start with one of the scenarios.
You could also write it in the chat if you would like to pick a
I could go if you like.
Okay, yes.
I'll choose number 7.
There we go. Would you like to read it?
Yes, let me read it for you. A student asks several personal questions, such as why you dress in a specific way. What do you do?
So what do you think the problem is? I'm sorry.
Okay, no, yes, explain it.
So what would you think the problem is here? Do you see a problem here?
Was maybe why they're asking you why you're dressing the way you are.
How would you reply to this or respond to this?
Well, for me, if I was like in a tutoring session, a student asked me, I tend to dress, I guess I would say appropriate or business casual. So I'd be like, oh, because this is the outfits I like to wear. And I've found that for me, I feel comfortable with these outfits, especially here at work around you students.
That's good. Anyone else would like to add something?
Myself, I would say that we have to answer very briefly because they are interrupting this session for just personal questions. So you say that's the way I dress and just redirect the session back.
That's true. Here in SEC, we have like, it could be a 30 to an hour session. So sometimes it's a limited time. So we prefer, like, not prefer, but we would like to always redirect them back to the session because of the time. Anyone else would like to add something in here?
Can I say something?
Yes.
I would just like to piggyback off of what y'all said earlier. I would redirect the session and make sure that the student knows that we do have a limited amount of time. That personal questions are not a part of the assignment or tutoring assistance. Moreover, I would just redirect back to the college campus's policy. We're required to follow business casual attire and or uniforms such as our vests.
Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Let's go back. Let's go back. Would anyone else who would like to pick another number?
I'll take number 9.
Number 9. Okay. Would you like to read it?
Yeah, sure. A student wants to schedule 3 back-to-back appointments. Yes, should I explain what I would do? Sorry. Yeah. So I mean, I guess the policy at my tutoring center is that we can't schedule more than 2 back-to-back appointments. So I guess I would first inform them of that, and then I would say it might be more productive if we scheduled like one session, maybe on Monday or Tuesday, and then another session later in the week if you have other things you want to work on. A 2-hour-long session is a lot of tutoring at once, and it might not be the most helpful for you.
That's true. That is a good thing. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, you're okay. You continue.
No, it's okay. We would like to get your feedback. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would add something if they were to like schedule additional appointments like between the days. I would add maybe some goal setting so that they could get work done between those appointments.
That is also good. Yes. Anyone else would like to add anything?
I would like to explain to the student that it's good for them to have breaks between the session because that breaks allows them to think or to work in what we just did before they get another one.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like giving goals also, right? And they could work on that part. That's good. And plus, if you study for a long time, you do burn out. So you want to take a break there. Okay, let's go back. And who would like to pick the next number?
I would like to pick number 8.
Don't worry, Ryan, you'll be next.
All righty.
Okay, the other Ryan. Okay, can you read it?
Sure thing. A student comes up to you asking for help on their take-home test or quiz. What would you do? Now, I know we actually kind of went over this recently at IVCC. Our policy is that we're not supposed to help with take-home test or quiz unless we get explicit permission from the instructor. So I would just explain that to them, that that is our policy and for that scenario.
That is good. Yeah, it's also over here. We cannot help with tests or quizzes. Anyone else would like to add something?
We can offer the student that we can work on similar problems than they have in there so they can understand how to work the problem instead of just working that problem specific.
We could give them also an option, like we say, oh no, we cannot help you, go away. No, we could say, hey, how about we do this? Let's trade everything, let's change it. Let's say we have something, maybe we have some notes that you want to go over or some homework about that quiz or about that test. And we go over it together first and you will be ready for when you take that quiz or test. Okay, anyone else would like to add something in there? Okay, let me go back and we'll look for next scenario. So I know
Reading number
you have
2.
Number 2, okay. Would you like to read it?
Sure. So a student you are tutoring gets a phone call, then a text message, then a friend walks by, then they must go to the bathroom. What would you do? So I would probably say that this is at least for Shemeketa, we strictly have 45-minute appointments, so there's not a ton of time. So I would think maybe just it would be good to mention that there's not much time to work in a single session, so it's probably good to try to limit distractions beforehand if they're planning on scheduling another one, like go to the bathroom before you attend would be an easy one to fix, most likely. Maybe just try to answer communication questions after the session ends, because it's not a ton of time to work, so yeah.
Okay, that's good, that's really good. Anyone else would like to add something here?
I want to add something. I had an experience like that one time in a session, and it was a lady, and she kept texting and looking at her phone and reading the messages. So I asked her if she wanted a break and attend to that. And then she informed me that her mother was taking care of her baby, 2-year-old, and was sick. And that's why she was looking at it. So I think it's good to keep in mind that all our students have their own lives and their own problems like we do, and try to inquire first what is the problem. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to add something? Maybe you have experienced this before?
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I think it's good that y'all mentioned not making any presumptions and addressing the student with patience and understanding first. But as someone else noticed, if it's simple errors like going to the bathroom or chatting with a friend, very casually, those are things that could be avoided or done before. So with that said, if I notice those things, I would tell the student, I noticed we've lost a bit of time. Would you feel more comfortable scheduling another session so we could have the most time and dedication towards your assignment? I would just, and if they don't, then that's great. It's their decision, it's their tutoring session. But I would also, just make that known,
I do
Just
have a
giving.
question.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to know, how do you handle that in an ADA situation, where the person does have to go to the restroom for medical reasons? Do you ask them, do you get them more time, or does it overall, do you, instead of an hour or 45 or 30 minutes, do they extend it for ADA personnel?
It all depends on the campuses. Here,
At
we,
STC?
yeah,
I'm
at
at
SSC here, they're able to request, everyone is able to request more time also. We normally give them 4 hours per semester, 4 weeks, per week, and they renew every week. But if they need more hours, they could also request more.
Okay, now the other one is, the question before is dealing with some of the I work with is hands-on. So how can that be if we don't have the equipment here in the building? Do we need to go somewhere else to the building to do hands-on the training or to do the practical to answer their question in the scenario? How do we do that?
You mean in the previous scenario?
Yes, in the previous scenario, I apologize. I just caught it right now.
Sorry. It's because I'm really bad with memory. What was the previous scenario?
This now you got me thinking.
The tests and quizzes, you mean?
Yes, testing quizzes. Even though it's the actual is physical, it's not paper wise. It's not reading out of a book or anything. You have to physically check from one, on the item to one wire to another. Because I do electrical, HVAC, and construction, or you have to build the project right there for the test or the quiz. How does that work if we can't do it in this building?
Us tutors, I still don't think we could help, but all depends. I recommend ask your supervisor. They'll have more information on that.
Okay.
But maybe there is another department that they could help them in that part. And maybe it's linked with the CLE or sorry, another your tutoring center. I wouldn't know the exact information on that, but I do recommend ask your supervisor. I'm pretty sure they know that part.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to add something? Okay, so let's go back whenever this can. And anyone would like to pick a number?
12.
12. Would you like to read it?
Sure. It says, a student keeps coming in with no notes, textbook, or even a pencil pen. He repeats this behavior every week. What would you do? I think if I noticed a student didn't have all the proper supplies, I would simply ask them if they would like to borrow one. I have no problem, lending out my own pencil to a student, as long as I get it back. Things are expensive these days. We have paper here. If it's a textbook, I would simply ask them if they do have the textbook. Again, not making presumptions, but just asking them, do you have the textbook? Instead of saying, why didn't you bring your textbook? Did you not buy it? So do you have a textbook? Have you acquired the textbook? No, I haven't acquired the textbook because I don't have money. They may say something like that. All right, no worries. Our library, may have it available for checkout, or sometimes these texts are readily available, if they're within the public domain. So I think providing solutions is, what they come to us for most of the time. So I would try and solve it as, quickly as possible, just because our sessions are limited. And with that said, if we did lose time, back to the previous scenarios, I would just let them know that they could feel free to request another session or request an additional hour, X, Y, or Z. And if it kept happening even then, or I assume I would say this if it keep happening, but I would honestly say this, even if they came to the first session and I see that they weren't prepared. But if it kept happening, I would probably just let a supervisor know that this student is not necessarily cooperative or engaging. And if I did see that it was like just a lack of effort, because sometimes students just come just to get a credit from their professor, and if it were a lack of effort, and if it were not productive at all, or even if it borderlined, um, disrespecting boundaries or time or whatnot, I would simply, end the session. If it's not productive, there are other students waiting. Sometimes we do have long lines or, people coming in that need help. So somebody else could use my help.
Okay, no, that's a good response. Well, Maria, would you like to tell your story about the student?
Yeah, I have a student one time like that, and he used to come just because the parents want him to come because he had not passed DSI, and he keep coming with nothing. So I gave him a copy of the DSI format, and that's what he was working on, and tell him to take it home or stay here and work whatever he can. And the next time he said, okay, he disappeared. The next time it was the same thing. When I asked him about what happened with the copy I gave you so you can work on it. So let me see what can you do and what you cannot. Oh, I forgot it. I don't have it. So, you know, sometimes even if you try and try, the student is not motivated. That's the problem. You know? Maybe they make him come. So try to do the best you can, but once you cover all your points, you know, it's up to them.
And if you want an update on that one, the student, after he went with Maria like a few weeks after he came to me for a tutoring session, he was prepared. He had his TSI, he has his pencil, he had everything ready. It was pretty cool. So yes, Alistair, I see your hands up. Would you like to add something?
I think my audio, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think like what you guys said are definitely good points because as tutors, you want to get, especially on the tutoring floor, I would imagine this happens a lot on the tutoring floor. You definitely want to give the student the benefit of the doubt. And I would also say you definitely want to be very careful because sometimes, like in my experience, by default, you just kind of want to say, okay, well, you don't bring anything and you don't, like, why are you here, quote unquote, right? Like, but other times it could just be like a different scenario. Like for example, I don't know, like different states have different laws with like ADA in different colleges. But like for instance, there are some students that I experienced that they're more auditory. They will like literally sit there and listen to and look at what you're doing, and then later on they'll take their notes. So they'll be like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense," and then they come back home and take their notes. So that's what I kind of noticed on my part. It happened once to me. And like I said, different states are different. So like the state of Texas, you could record, which are one party states. So I don't know, like, one person could be recording notes. That's kind of like what happened with one of my situations. They were like kind of like recording with audio and then they go home and take notes later. And if it's allowed, we can't just automatically assume, well, you just don't want to be here. So I'm glad that we all kind of like give the student the benefit of the doubt first and then kind of investigate and find out.
Yes, that's true. That is true. I forgot about that part. But yeah.
Can I add something real quick?
Yes.
So also we can suggest academic coaching to those students that are struggling, because they provide semester-long support in many areas like finals prep, study plans, motivation, presentation skills, note-taking, right prepping, and time management. So we can always point them to that direction.
Yes, here in STC, we have academic coaches like Maria mentioned before, and also Lucky, that they could help them in that part because maybe they're new to college and they don't know what to expect or what they have to do. And that's a good program that will help them in that part.
I just only when I start a session like that, I always ask them. We have in the front with our clerks, we have some strips with the link for taking learning styles, and it's a very short test, and they can take in any computer, and they will tell us more or less what is the learning style, and with that, then we can proceed with going into that style. We have also a brochure that they can take home. Then they said what kind of learner are them and what they can improve to do that better, and then send them to the coach like Adriana says.
Okay, so let's go back. And would anyone else would like to pick a number? Come on.
Do 3.
There you go. Don't be afraid. It's okay. We're here everyone to share your experience, right?
For sure.
Would you
So
like
it
to read it?
says a female student complains to you that her physics professor is discriminating against female students in his class by constantly joking about inferior female intelligence to males. What would you do? I would honestly report it because that goes against employee policy.
That's true. We always have to reported. We're mandate reporters or something. I forgot the word for it. I'm really bad with words. Sorry about that. But yes, and here in SSC there's a department that's called Student Rights and Responsibilities, and they could guide the student what will be the next step after that, in case if they do decide to report and everything.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I think I would approach this scenario by letting the student tell me more. They obviously feel comfortable confiding in the tutor. And then I would let them know that since you did make a formal complaint, a verbal formal complaint regarding our policy that wasn't upholded by the professor, I would have to report this to my supervisor. And then I would report it to the supervisor and be sure to just give them those resources before they go, such as who they could contact, like a respective department, so they could make their own report. Just because this sounds like it might be a form of harassment or discrimination type of deal. And yeah, I think if you don't report it could be really, really bad. So that's all,
Yeah.
just like Lucky said.
That is true.
Also,
Go ahead.
additionally, just like generally, if you are a mandated reporter, if a student comes to you and is like, "Can I tell you about something kind of serious?" Tell them up front. I would, I'm here for you. I'm totally here for you. I want to listen to whatever you have to say. Just so you know, I am a mandated reporter. If you confide in me about an instance of harassment or something like that, I do have to tell my supervisor or proper people. If you would like, I can give you the names of some people you might be able to go to if you would like to handle this on your own. But just know that, like, if you tell me, I do have to tell somebody. Just because if you tell them afterwards, and obviously this is only if they come to you and ask before saying something, but a student can sometimes feel a little bit betrayed if they feel like you're telling on them, even though, you're just trying to help them.
I see what you mean. And that's the word. Thank you for saying it.
And
I was,
real quick, it falls under Title IX, so we have to report it.
I was gonna say it also covers you because like Ira, I think that's how you say your name. Or Ira, yeah. Like because they could like really be comfortable with you, and then maybe like a week from now or a month from now, they could be like, "Why didn't you do anything?" And then you're kind of like, "Oh, well,"
That's true. Yeah. So it's always good to guide them and tell them about it. Okay. So let's go back here. And would anyone else would like to pick a number?
I want to pick number 5.
Oh, you're good.
Who's speaking? Number 5, we'll go with number 5?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Would you like to read it?
A student keeps looking at you after every step of a problem and asking, is that right? Or what should I do next? So what is the problem and what will you do? Anyone wants to have an opinion?
The first thing I would do is, what do you think? Like, do you think the process you did is correct? Definitely make it so that they build their confidence. They don't depend on me or whoever they're talking to next for like confirmation.
That is good. Yeah.
Good.
Anyone else would like to add anything?
I feel like it's pretty important to let them start doing it wrong anyways, just because eventually if they recognize how it does go wrong, they'll probably see that again if they make that same mistake. So that can be good to identify like when I'm not doing this right.
Yeah. And like one thing we like to tell to students is like, it's okay to do it wrong here or get it wrong here because you're in tutoring. We could help. You don't want to get it wrong in the test or when you're right there in the quiz or in the test, you're like, oh man, if you get it wrong, pues, yeah, you can't do much on that one. But here it's okay. Go ahead.
I feel like that could kind of tie into like a little bit of like when you check an answer if it's correct, make sure it ties in with like an instructor's like answer key, not you saying, "Oh yeah, that looks correct," so that it like aligns with the instructors like teaching the students.
I think I know what you mean. Yeah. Anyone else would like to add anything?
So I'm super new at tutoring, and so far what I've been doing is going through the textbook and practicing textbook problems that actually have the answer. And then I'm just like, well, don't look at the answer yet. Let's, work through it. And then we go back and check the answer. And if the textbook says it's right or wrong, then that's what it is, instead of me having to be like, yeah, that's right or that's wrong. So far, so good, I think, but that's what I've been doing.
No, that's a good thing. Because even if, let's say, they go home and they try to do it themselves, they're like, oh, I remember the tutor told me that not look at the answers first and then look at the answers when I get the answer. So that's good. Anyone else who would like to add anything here?
I think another thing you could do is just like at certain parts of the problem, you could ask them like, why are you choosing to do that? Like, what's your reasoning behind this? So they start to like think critically, recognize their reasoning as they're going through the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done that even in tests. I'm like, there's something weird here. But then I figure it out. So I'm gonna go
I'll just
back.
say
Go
from
ahead,
what you
Ryan.
guys are saying, I think it's really important to ask those sort of critical thinking questions, or just those probing questions like, why did you do that? Or how do you feel about that? Or what do you think? Um, to give them the control of the tutoring session, right? And to try and meet them on their level. But also I'll say that if you have already worked with a student in the past, or if you've already done a couple examples together, sometimes I will tell my students, okay, like especially if it's an hour session, I'll be like, okay, now go ahead and try this problem on your own, and then we can discuss together. And some of them will rely on you. They will become very codependent on you, especially if they come to you very, very often. Um, and they will look at you after every problem, or they'll ask you these things. So I think it's okay to just say like, um, keep trying, like we'll discuss at the end, or keep going, you're almost there. Like just simple reassurance. Um, because I think it's very important for me in my sessions to get them to do it. That way eventually they won't need my help, maybe for a while at least. Not because I don't want to tutor them, but because the point is to get them to grow, to have some progress, right? To learn these new concepts. And so I'll say a really quick anecdote. I had a student who would or who does come to me often, and he does this very specific thing where he wants me to tell him what to do very explicitly. And I cannot ask anything, but I think it may be like an ADA thing. So I just offer reassurance, and I break down the assignment like step by step, and give them note-taking skills or reading comprehension skills, X, Y, and Z. And then at the end of the session, I let him do a couple and we discuss together. And he always like gets it right away after we break it down, especially because I've learned to tailor the session towards his learning style, which is very, very visual. So I make him draw and write everything out, even though he might get a little tired. It helps him out at the end because he has all his notes in front of him.
Mm-hmm. Alistair, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I had a very interesting experience with this the online session. So the student never really like said, "Oh, hey, is that right?" or "What do I do next?" But they were very, because like we all learn and like take body language different. I want to say they were being very clever, but that's just kind of like how like her like mannerisms were. But she would be like, "Oh, like I'm looking at like at your like your face. I'm looking to see like I read like she said like she reads people. So basically." What she was kind of looking for was like me nodding, like yes or no, to kind of be like, you're on the right track. And so I kind of picked up on that and I was like, that's interesting. That's never happened before. Instead of asking, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? They're kind of like looking for like, like the validation and kind of being like, yes, just nod your head. Yes. So I could be like, okay, I'm right, without me like finishing. So then I would kind of say, well, okay, work on this problem. And then I'm just going to turn my audio off and my camera off for a little bit. And then when you're done, let me know and I'll turn it back on and explain. So I kind of like stopped that, and she actually did better after that.
That is good. I know I'm guilty on that. I try to look somewhere else. I'm like, look somewhere else. I do not give him any hints there. Yeah, I know what you mean. Okay, just because of time, we're gonna go back and pick the next scenario. This is a good topic to talk about. Would anyone else would like to pick another number? Anyone
How
else?
about
Go ahead.
number 10?
Number 10. That's good. Would you like to read it?
Sure thing. You are tutoring a student in calculus and you come across a problem that you are not familiar with. What would you do? Well, that would be all calculus problems because I'm not really a math tutor. So I'm trying to apply that to writing instead. Whenever I come across something that I am not sure about, I don't hesitate to ask any of my fellow tutors, if they're free and available, go to, if I'm lacking in knowledge, I just get help from one of my peers because that's what we're all here for.
That is true.
Right.
And then,
Sometimes when that happened to me, what I do is I go to the front, to the desk with the clerks and ask them to transfer the student to a more prepared tutor than me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
anyone else would like to add something?
I guess maybe not unfamiliar, but just maybe not current with sometimes it can be helpful just to review the student's material, and if that's enough to remind me of what is happening in said problem, that can be enough. Otherwise, at least for Shemeketa, we have like content specific instructional specialists or supervisors. So if we grab them, they can usually help figure it out, which is nice.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, also at my institution, we have what's called office hours. I don't know how many different institutions do this, but basically your instructor for the class has like open office hours where you can just show up and ask your instructor that's teaching this specific thing, like, how do I do this? And this is something that I recommend like to every single student when we get stuck.
Yes, that is always a good one because you could always send them back to their professor. It says, oh, go and ask your professor. And I also tell them this, when you figure it out, come and tell me. And now I will know.
Yeah,
Whoa.
that's something I do a lot too, because as a writing tutor, every instructor kind of has different, expectations or requirements. So I remind my students sometimes whenever there's something unsure and it's something that's, the instructor's prerogative, I tell them, ask your instructor about this. But I should start taking that part of asking them. And then when you get the answer, come to me and let me know about it. That's a good point of advice.
And plus, if they're able to explain it to you, they'll retain it better. So that's a win-win, Okay, let's go back and pick another number. Anyone else would like to pick a number?
Number 6. Oh, sorry. I don't know if she wants
No,
to.
you go.
Don't worry, you'll go next. It's okay. It's all good. Would you
Okay,
like to read it?
yes, of course. You are in the middle of a tutoring session, and a student you previously worked with comes up to your current session and interrupts you by asking for help again. What would you do? So I think I would inform the student that I currently am busy in working with a student and that I can email them or through Upswing send them a message later on if they have more questions, just so I can be respectful and mindful of the tutoring session that I'm already in.
Anyone else would like to add something on that one?
Yeah,
I
just
do.
to add some, at least, oh, sorry.
No, go.
Oh, okay. So for we're by appointment in our center, but we do sometimes take like walk-in students if we have tutors who are available in the back and want to work. So I'll just direct them up to the front desk because the front desk usually knows what tutors are working and if somebody's maybe available to take a walk-in session for that subject.
That is, yeah.
What I was going to say is, and sometimes a student walks like that in, and it happens that he is in the same class with the student that I'm tutoring. So I asked my former student, the one I'm tutoring right now, if it's okay with them if they join us. If they say yes, then I tutor both of them.
You could make it a joint, yeah.
Mhm.
Anyone else would like to add something here? So let's go back and pick the next number. Who wanted to pick the next number?
I did.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's go 11.
Okay, let's see. Oh,
The student is violating your personal space by constantly touching your arm and makes you feel like they're hitting on you, which makes you feel uncomfortable. I mean, I would definitely remind them we're in a professional setting. This is against policy. I feel like because of the consistency of it, I might end the appointment because, like, being a girl, I don't like that at all, especially because I'm trying to help them in a professional manner. And then I think for this one, this would be a scenario where you would tell your supervisor and just like let them know, hey, they broke a policy in a like not an okay way.
yeah, and you feel uncomfortable, you know? Everyone should be comfortable in their sessions. Anyone else would like to add something about this scenario? This could happen
Can I
to
say
either a
something?
girl, boy, anything there. So,
I'll say something.
yeah.
I feel like this happens a lot to me. I don't know why. It's I don't know if I come off as just friendly with my students, but sometimes they'll like just grab my arm or they'll like rub my shoulder or whatever. Um, and I physically move back every time. And I tell them, I'm like, per policy, we keep our hands to ourselves. Smile. And if it happens often, and if I do feel uncomfortable, I have no problem telling my students. And I've told them before, either when I was at the middle school or otherwise, um, ADA or not, I think it's very good to be explicit. I feel uncomfortable when I'm touched. I do not like touch. Can I help you with the next problem? I think it's okay to be explicit when you're uncomfortable, just so you can be productive. And maybe they don't know. Maybe they just that's how they express themselves. Maybe they don't mean to harass. But if they do, that way they know. They're putting their foot down. They're gonna report me.
Yeah, just if you feel like I could say it to them, if you're like, okay, I have the courage to say to anyone like, oh, I don't feel comfortable, then say it. But if you don't feel comfortable, like if you don't feel confident on saying it, you could always, like you said, go to a supervisor and mention it to them. Yes, Brian. I always STC policy. Yes, you could always say, oh, it's my college policy. You cannot do that. Just blame the policy.
I will add something before confronting the student like that. There is different things that we could do. We like I do science and math. I can put a whiteboard in between them and me, and try to write or tell them, give them the marker and try to write with them. And that way is not a confronting scenario or you're not imagining things, you know. There is different things that we could do. Just move away.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So let's go back and pick the next scenario. Who would like to pick the next scenario?
Let's choose one.
Let's go with one. Would you like to
Says
read it, Lucky?
definitely. You are tutoring a group session and a student from the group gets frustrated because it took 20 minutes to finish one question. The student wanted to finish the whole assignment. What would you do? So when it comes to this, if something is taking, let's see, a problem is taking 20 minutes, the student can always schedule another session for a later time. That way you can continue doing that assignment. Or you can tell the student, hey, do some independent study for now. You can sign up for another session, but take time to do these problems, and we'll figure it out the next time we get together.
That's good. You're giving them a go. That's good. Anyone else would like to add something?
One other thing I think maybe even just outside of the context of being a group session, like I guess class dependent, there are most definitely problems that can take 20 minutes, like even accepting like a ton of extra explanation. So maybe it's just like a kind of a expectations kind of thing. You might want to mention to the student like, hey, these problems are kind of going to be expected to take maybe, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes to solve individually. So it's kind of unreasonable to expect to be able to do them so quickly. So maybe just like, slow down, take your time on each problem. And yeah, just kind of maybe not like tutoring related, but just more as like a general advice thing.
That is true, because I know that I believe we got this one from a physics tutorial, because those physics problems were really long, like take 2 boards in there, you could say, and they were the big boards. So yeah, you just want to tell the students, hey, these physics problems are not going to be that easy to solve or something. You first have to understand it better. It's better to understand it than just jump to the next answer. Anyone else who would like to add something here?
Can I add something?
Yes.
So especially when it comes to like STEM questions, like when students come in with like for chemistry or specifically physics, like you mentioned, the problems can take a long time. So I think it's just important to emphasize like, okay, well, this, especially if it's in a group session, every student is probably going to learn in different ways. So it's okay to take enough time so that way each of the students understand the particular question that you're going over.
Mm-hmm. That is true, because you're coming in a group session, so you have to take in consideration everyone else, right? Okay. So would you like to add anything else, Alisa, sorry.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Let me go back and okay. So I believe number 4, right? Would anyone like to read it?
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
So it says a student comes to get tutoring session because their professor will give them extra credit. However, the student is not participating in the tutoring session. So I think I have experienced something like this, but they were participating in this session. But at least for this particular circumstance, I would just go ahead and let them know that this is like for the betterment of their class. Like the session's going to be better for them in total if we go ahead and work on problems together, because once they see it on a quiz or an exam, they'll be more prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately.
That is true. Anyone would like to add something here?
I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like, and it might not be appropriate, but I think I might ask them like why they're not participating. Like if they told me that their professor said they had to come or whatever, but if they're just like on their phone, or I don't know what it is that they're doing, but I might just ask like, what's going on? Is there like, why don't you want to work on this stuff? Like you're here, are you sure there's nothing? Or kind of depending on how it feels. I don't know exactly what words would come out, but I think I would definitely be asking like, why don't you want to do this? And if you, it's kind of sounds rude, but if you don't want to do it, then let's move on. I have other things I can be doing that I want to do.
You could also ask, what are you working on? Like, what have you gone over in the class? Or do you have questions on on your homework? Or what is this? What is that?
Yeah, something.
Mm-hmm. Something so at least you get the projective of the session.
Because yeah, maybe there's, I don't know, maybe there's some underlining thing that by asking multiple questions, something might come out as to why, and then you can maybe get somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what happened. One time they come over here and they're asking just, oh, I just need the extra credit. I'm like, okay, but we need to do something. So I started asking questions like, okay, what are you going over? What is your homework? Have you finished your homework? Have you done this? And then that's where they started saying, no, I haven't finished my homework and I do have trouble on this. And the past is also the subject, like the previous subject or the topic. And I'm like, oh, okay, we could start from there. Sometimes they just come because they don't even know that we exist. They know that, oh, I just get extra credit if I go to tutoring. I don't know how it works, but I'm just gonna go. So even if there their first time, we could ask them questions and then from the, oh, okay, I understand how this works now. I need to give them something to help me. Anyone else would like to add? Yes, María?
Gregory has the hand up.
Oh, would you like to add something?
Yes, thank you. So at my tutoring center here in New York, every tutoring session begins by establishing a goal between the tutor and the student. And when in a situation like this, we wouldn't even start tutoring until we've established something we're going to work towards, which can then, it gives the tutor the ability to hold the student accountable to, okay, well, if that's what we agree to, this is what we're going to do, let's work towards that. And it helps both the tutor frame the session, keep track of time, but also puts accountability on the student to establish what they're going to do and how we could get there. And if they're not participating, then we can say, well, let's revise our goal. It doesn't look like this is working for you. And it gives them some power in that relationship. Yeah.
That is good.
I had that experience with a couple of girls students that were coming for anatomy. And it was very obvious because they came always at the same time and cut at the same time. And they would just sit at the table with the snacks and studying. So finally I asked them and they told me, oh, we're coming for the credit. I said, oh, okay, what about if you explain me, what are you going through and explain it to me? That way I make them participate.
Anyone else would like to add something? Okay, let's go back. Go. So do you have any questions? Okay. Okay, thank you for coming to our workshop. It was a pleasure to participate. Thank you for participating
and meeting you. Yes.
Sorry.